one of the managers of the content creator program in Stumbleguys, and joining me today is my good friend Kirex. Say hi, Kirex.
Hello Stumblers, I'm Kirex. I'm one of the game designers in Stumbleguys, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Eru.
Always a pleasure. So we are here today to discuss about the latest update to Stumbleguys, version 0.83. Do you want to tell us what this update is about?
Sure thing, I do. So first of all, we've been listening and monitoring the community very closely. Thanks to our team here, but also about you guys being very vocal in both our Discord channels. So we've listened to feedback, and we understand that since we made the changes to abilities and made them much more accessible during the summer, this has also increased its use a lot, making the core gameplay experience a bit masked behind all of the new abilities. Therefore, what we want to try is to, whilst keeping abilities being a fun and something to grind towards to and to earn and use in matches, we also want it to be more balanced. We want the core gameplay to still be about Stumbleguys and adding a little flavor on top with abilities and keeping it in a balanced state, especially when playing such skill levels and ranked mode.
Awesome, so let's dive into it. Let's start with the hub.
Alright, so the hug ability is one of the longest that has been inside of the Stumbleguys gameplay. It's loved by the fans, but it's also become a bit to a state where it does a little bit too much. So you have the ability to grab an opponent and essentially push them off a ledge, but you're also getting a momentum and acceleration speed boost. So with the changes, we're trying to adjust it more and make it and highlight the offensive capabilities, but not the mobility ones. Therefore, we're doing changes like reducing the speed that you are in whilst grabbing other players, and also increasing a little bit the cooldown. So kick, again, like the huggy mode, has been one of the longest ability. The state we're in with kick is that it's both a good option in order to use as mobility, especially in block dash, breaking those blocks, but also as an attack. And the thing, it was doing a bit of too much of both. Therefore, we're changing some characteristics of it, like decreasing a bit of the cooldown, but we're also doing that when you level it up to level 15, the effect that it used to cause into players, it's much lower. Because kick is used a lot, therefore it shouldn't have such a long effect, because we don't want it to be constant.
Alright, Kirex, what can you tell us about the roll?
So the dice roll was performing a bit like the punch ability, but at a long distance. And the problem with it is that it was both being a very good throwable, but also being good at eliminating players. So what we're doing is we're reducing a bit of the force, we're increasing a bit of the cooldown, and we're also making sure that it lasts a little bit shorter time alive inside of the game. With both, we're doing a little adjustment into making it fit with the other throwables, and we're decreasing a bit of the force it used to be able to obtain, making it a bit more characteristic of the ability, the magnetism that you can still unlock when you reach it to level maximum. Break is a fun one. So the only problem that we were having and we were finding from the players was that actually the confusion effect that you would unlock at the max level was lasting for a bit too long. It's still a very fun mechanic, but it was being overused in maps, especially as block dash or in lava land, where you had to have very precise movement, allowing to eliminate a lot of players. Therefore, we're reducing the time you will be affected by the confusion effect.
I also hear there are a few abilities that are getting new mechanics. I believe Chop is one of them. Is that right?
That's right. The Chop ability now will be able to upgrade what it used to be the max level effect. So now Chop will be able to squish our targets during several durations. This will make it harder for the opponents to jump, as their maximum vertical jump will be decreased. Therefore, in maps where there are lasers, such as Laser Tracer or Laser Dash, this ability will come in pretty handy. Well, we're actually changing how the variables are upgraded for this ability. So the idea of Slap is that it hits in a wider area, but it wasn't really applying much effect. So we're making it available to use force and have that be more impactful in the game.
Right, let's talk fan favorites. It's time to talk about Punch.
Punch is actually a bit related to what we were doing with Slap, because it hits much harder, but it was also very easy to use, at least in the later changes that we did to it. So what we've actually done is reduce the angle of impact that it has, to make it a little bit harder, but also keeping its strength and game-changing force. Well, this has been one of the most dominant abilities ever since it was introduced in the game. In an effort to try and change how it is performing inside of our levels, what we're doing is we're actually using the duration, so it should allow the players to exploit this ability much less and use it in more specific moments inside of a map, rather than it being a dominant strategy. We're actually changing how this Snowball ability is improved. Therefore, what we're doing is that actually now you can slow much more the opponent. So being able to do so will be a debuff ability that will come pretty handy in those race maps to try and get ahead.
And what can you tell us about the sticky ball?
So similarly to the Snowball, it was a debuff throwable that wasn't working quite well with how it was upgraded. So what we're doing is we're allowing it to have the seeking ability constantly. So it will be latching into our opponents as they move close, but it will be an area debuff of speed. And now you'll be able to increase that debuff, making the rivals go even slower. We found that both the cooldown and the duration were too high, so players were being able to chain it together as well with the shield, and we want to reduce that. We want the invisibility to be a more eventful, a more planned ability to use as a strategic defense and be able to move away. Therefore, we're reducing the duration of the ability and also increasing the cooldown. Similarly to the invisibility, it was constantly being used, so it would allow you to be in a permanent stage. Therefore, in the same manner, we're reducing the duration and we're increasing the cooldown, so you need to plan more carefully when to avoid those incoming attacks.
And finally, we should talk about spin. I hear that this is actually not balance changes. What's the story there?
Yeah, a spin ability was one that should have been hitting players all around you, covering a wide area. However, it wasn't doing so because of an issue. Now that issue is fixed, and believe me, in a 360-degree angle, you will be hit by it.
Before we wrap up, we want to thank you all for your feedback and support.
Absolutely. Please keep sharing your thoughts and opinions on the game and the balance changes for the abilities through both the social media and our Discord channel. Because we're listening to you and we're trying to use, and with your help, we'll be able to make Stumbleguys the best game we can.